Hello and welcome back for another episode of the Fit 40 podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about time-friendly ways to improve your nutrition and fitness, even if you have a crazy busy schedule. I've got a bunch of clients that do have insanely packed schedules where they have a million and one things to do during the day, but they still find time, they still see success. And I want to tell you guys all about it so you can do it yourself and see the results that you want to see without constantly falling off the wagon because time becomes an issue. Before I begin, let's make sure that if you are a returning listener, you go ahead and hit that follow or subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And if you're a new listener, I hope that you get a lot out of this episode. I hope you get a ton of value so that you're like, you know what? I should probably follow along too. So at the end, if you find yourself in that position, make sure to hit that follow or subscribe. Now, let's get on with the show. So if you have ever caught yourself feeling like Kimberly Sweet Brown Wilkins and just saying, ain't nobody got time for that. And you're just like, I cannot figure out how to do all this nutrition, all this cooking, all the exercise, all these different strategies that I see all over social media because I barely have enough time to think, let alone do all this other crap. Okay. Don't worry. I got you. I'm going to talk about one of the clients that has been thriving lately. Her name is Shannon. You've probably heard me talk about her on a couple of podcasts prior to this, but she came in today with one of the best check-in non-scale victories I've seen. And she told me that she had a discussion recently with her bestie at work, like that ride or die at work that you're like, if they get fired or quit, I'm leaving too. That kind of best friend where you're like, she just sat her down and she said, listen, I know we go out to eat all the time for lunch. That's like our thing, but it just doesn't line up with my goals right now. And I can't keep doing that because as you know, when you go out to dinner, when you go out to lunch, when you go out to breakfast, when you get stuff from a restaurant, it's going to be more calorically dense. It's going to be harder to track. And can you do it on occasion? Absolutely. But if it's going to be an everyday, all the time thing, then you really have to take into account what your goals are at the moment. Now, if you want to maintain, awesome. You could definitely pull that off. But trying to lose weight and trying to tone up, it's very, very challenging. So she decided, hey, this just doesn't line up with what I'm trying to do right now. So she had that uncomfortable conversation, which was win number one. Like she did something for herself, even though it was uncomfortable, even though she really didn't want to, but in reality, she did want to. She just didn't want to have that uncomfortable moment, but she pushed through and still did it. She also now, number two, big win is she can control her lunch. She knows exactly what she is eating. She knows exactly how to track it. So she will get higher quality ingredients, most likely, a whole lot less fat from the oils and everything. And she's probably going to have more energy going into that second half of the workday. And along with that, now she finds that she doesn't have to catch up on work later at night because she has all this time at lunch that she was taking to go out to go get something to eat, when instead she knocks out her lunch, she has it in like 10, 15 minutes, and then she's got like another, like, I don't know, hour or two before she has to get back to work, even though she's been working for the past 45 minutes to an hour and getting a ton done. So now she has more time for herself, for her family, to watch a Netflix show if she wanted to, instead of doing work. So she can actually unwind, and her sleep has actually gotten better from this. So this is like a simple thing that you can do, is just having the hard conversations. But this is basically what led into today's discussion. So I'm going to take it a little bit further. So let's talk about nutrition. First off, when it comes to nutrition, the biggest piece of advice I give people when it comes to improving the quality of the food you're eating, if you want to stay in a calorie deficit, if you want to be in maintenance, if you want to fuel performance, whatever it is, go simple. Simplify the recipes. You don't need these recipes that you see on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook that are so elaborate, that are clearly written by somebody who works from home, who maybe they're stay at home and their spouse takes care of the bills. Like they just have all the time in the world. Because when you see people that are actually business owners and they have a bunch of things going on, they tend to do simpler recipes. So certain accounts come to mind where it's like, okay, certain ones are realistic, other ones are way unrealistic because it takes so much prep time, so much time to actually cook the damn thing. And then once you're done, you're not using 20 of the spices that you just used. You're only using like 3 or 4 consistently. So now you wasted a ton of money on spices. So simplify. And when I say simplify, I mean very simple. Like use the, if you've ever heard me talk about it, the PFC system: protein, fiber, color. All right. What is your protein source? Figure it out, because When it comes to protein, most people only really rotate through three, four, maybe five, where it's like some sort of lean beef, chicken, turkey, fish. And then if you have vegan slash vegetarian options, there's a bunch of them as well. But figure out your go-tos, what you tend to lean towards, and make your meals around that instead of saying, I need variety, so I need to change every single thing. All right. It's not always about variety. It's more about variability, which is a really cool concept that was brought up when Logan Dubé came on the show. And I highly recommend checking out the podcast that we did. Logan goes into total detail on the difference, but to give you a little bit of a spark notes, variety is when you change all the factors. Variability is when you change one or two factors here and there. So let's say you decide, hey, I'm going to do like a burrito bowl. Awesome. Well, now we have, say, steak, beans, rice, veggies, and you have your PFC right there. The protein is the steak, the fiber is rice and the beans. So you could do brown rice, get a little bit more fiber in there, or rice and beans. The beans will take care of it. And then there's the fajita veggies. So now you have your vegetable, your color, and we have it all right there. Now, how do we make that more variable? How do we introduce some sort of a different taste or something to break up the monotony? What you do is instead of doing steak, now you do chicken one day. Cool. Now you've done a chicken burrito bowl instead of a steak burrito bowl. And the next time you do shrimp. And the next time you do a different style of rice. Next time you throw something else in that you haven't tried before, a spice or something to enhance it. And you have fun with that specific dish instead of saying, all right, I got a fajita bowl this one day. I have quesadilla the next, I have Italian the next, Chinese the next, and you're just like always trying to figure out, oh my God, what is the recipe for this? I don't even know. And you never really get into a flow. So if you can, try and lean more into variability, change the little things. Once you have your base of like, okay, I have X, Y, and Z for this dish, I can play with certain things like whatever the spices are, the hot sauce or the dressing and things like that. And you'll have such an easier time because on top of that, if you're tracking, you already have 90% of that meal logged somewhere. So you go back, copy and paste that day, and then you just delete, say, the steak and put chicken in there. You just saved yourself so much time tracking just because all you had to do was copy and paste and change one thing. All right. Another thing you could do when it comes to making things simple, making things quick is when it comes to meal prep, do a lazy meal prep. I do this all the time where it's like, okay, we're having, say, we love doing cauliflower with chicken meatballs, but sometimes we'll do regular chicken and we'll do like a cauliflower gnocchi with that and some mozzarella cheese, some vodka sauce on top of that. And it ends up being a really solid meal. Now, when we use chicken, I'm like, okay, I buy a crap load of chicken every single time because when you buy in bulk, it's cheaper. So on top of that, if you want a price saving tip, grab the chef's special or whatever the clearance one is because it's got like maybe a day or two left on it. And then you just cook it all up that day or freeze it. So you're still getting high quality meat, but you're getting it at a discount, sometimes for literally half the price. Anywho, once you've done that, you cook it all up. You just say, okay, I'm going to throw some salt and pepper on this, keep it basic. And then as the week goes on, you can introduce different spices. So it's like, okay, I used the chicken for tonight's pasta dish. I'm going to use the chicken tomorrow for some chicken quesadillas with some high fiber wraps. And instead of the salt or because it's got salt and pepper on it, you could add things like taco seasoning or whatever hot sauce you want. And then the next night you could use it for, say, a Chinese dish. And instead of using the hot sauce or the vodka sauce from the night before, now you're throwing on some sweet chili sauce or duck sauce or something like that. And you already made it. You don't need to spend all this time cooking that chicken up. So you've already helped yourself out. The next is kind of like a taboo thing, and I don't know why a lot of people don't do this because they feel like it's not as good or not as high quality, but getting frozen or canned food is totally fine. And for a lot of people, it's a much better option than the alternative because a lot of times we'll buy fresh fruits, fresh veggies, and they'll go bad. And then we see them wilting in the corner of the refrigerator with them giving us the veggie middle finger, like, you didn't eat me. And we're like, well, oh, well, toss it. And now I'm going to order some DoorDash or I'm going to go meal that I didn't want, but because there's no vegetables, I can't make what I wanted. So I'm going to go for this. Like, let's be honest, we're humans. That's tends to be what ends up happening a lot of the time. So go for frozen. If you can't get all the vegetables cooked up right away, then buy some steamable ones or some frozen veggies. Like I just made some fajita veggies that literally could have lasted probably months. Like I was going to say weeks, but they probably could have lasted months until I needed them in the fridge. So I just went ahead and cooked them as needed. And then you could twist the bag up, throw it back in, make sure it's good to go as far as like it's not open or anything like that. And it'll keep lasting you. And then when it comes to canned, same deal. Like if you can pop open the can after months of it sitting there because, hey, you got a good deal on it or you just didn't have a need for it yet, but you knew you would, then there you go. You don't have to rely on getting always super duper fresh foods. Not to mention, if you go frozen, they're flash frozen at their peak, at their best. And when you are shopping produce on the edges and that food has been sitting out for a while, that food has been sitting out longer than that food has been flash frozen for. So right when they pick it off, boom, flash frozen. They've only had maybe an hour or two of exposure and then they're frozen, they're locked in, all the nutrients are good to go. And the ones on the perimeter of the grocery store have been sitting there for hours, if not days. So there's really no reason not to go for frozen, especially because it's time friendly. It's more friendly to your wallet and it could potentially be more nutritious than what you're picking out from the produce aisle. And last but not least is microwavable. Same deal. Get steamable stuff. Get stuff that you could throw in the microwave instead of cooking your mashed potatoes from scratch. It's not the end of the world if you get one of those Bob Evans ones. I do that all the time, and there is no downside to any of that stuff. Everybody gets so butthurt about the fact that I need to be all organic, all natural, all this, blah, blah, blah. There's no added nutritional benefit from eating that way, other than the fact that you don't get to say it like it's some sort of virtue signal, like I'm better than everybody else because I cook perfectly for my family. Bullshit. Okay. If you want to have high quality, really nutritious food, you don't need to fear things like the frozen, the canned, or anything that's GMO or things like that, because there is nothing as far as evidence goes to point at that being horrible or worse. And in a lot of cases, it's better because, like I said, what's the alternative? What are you going to eat if you get all this stuff and it goes bad? We know where that goes. All right. Now, when it comes to fitness can be a tough one because you do need to block out specific time. It's like when we eat, we know I have breakfast, lunch, dinner. I know kind of the rhythm of that, but incorporating time to exercise can be really, really tough. So how do we fit that in? First, I will say earlier is better because when it comes to timing of the day, I can tell you right now, I worked in a gym in person, 2015 to 21, I want to say, a long time, 7, 8 years. All right. Don't quote me on the math, but one thing I noticed when I worked in person, when we were doing a class schedule, because the way that we ran it, it was on the hour. And I'll tell you right now, the 5 a.m.ers, 6 a.m.ers, 7 a.m.ers, by far the most consistent because the day never got away from them. It was just part of the routine. They woke up. We would tell them, get your electrolytes in because bare minimum, you want to get some electrolytes before you hit the gym. It would be great to get a solid breakfast, but some people literally just roll out and go. So they would get their drink in and then they'd show up and be like, okay, I'm here. And it would just be part of the routine. And there was nothing during the day that could throw them off. There was nothing that could come up because this is literally the first thing they were doing. So shout out to that crew. I love all of you guys and I love the later ones too. It's just these are trends that I want to point out so that people can benefit. Another thing that is helpful too is lunchtime. And I can tell you, as trainers, this is our favorite time because it's between clients and we get it in. But a lot of people too, when they have work and there's a gym at work or there's a gym nearby, lunchtime is prime time because if you have an hour, then it's really simple. You could just book it over, get like 30 minutes of a workout in, shower, whatever you need to do, and then microwave, like we just talked about, make a meal that you can microwave at work in a Tupperware or something, and then you could eat that for 10, 15 minutes and then bing, bang, boom, you're good to go. So lunchtime is a really good one as well. And also before and after work. So if you do have that gym, like a lot of people do have the luxury of having a gym at work. So if it's there, take advantage of it. Or if there's a gym on the way to or from work, take advantage of that. That's one of the best things. One of the things that a lot of those clients did was use that to their advantage because it was quite literally on the way to work or on the way back. So if they're on their way to work, they would get their workout in at like 7 a.m., shower, and they'd be out the door on their way to work. And there's also that crew that came in at around like 5, 6. They were also pretty damn consistent because they would always come from work, hit the gym, do their thing, and then go home. But notice this is all kind of part of their day. This is a method that we call habit stacking. And what habit stacking is taking something that you already do and then putting another habit on top of that because it reduces the friction. It's like, well, if I'm already doing this, I might as well do that. So that could be on your way to work. It's like, hey, I'm passing the gym. I might as well stop there or something along those lines. Another really cool way to habit stack, one of my favorite ways, is set it and forget it recipes and getting an at home workout in. So, what I mean by that is getting some sort of a recipe like air fryer recipe, something on the oven, something in the slow cooker, and just throwing it in like those one sheet recipes, toss it all in there, set the timer, and whatever time you got, do your workout. So if it's 20 minutes, do a 20-minute workout. If it's an hour, do an hour long workout and knock it out while you're doing it. So you're killing two birds with one stone. And another good thing that you could do as well is like, let's say you got really young kids. This comes off of one of my clients who actually did this and thrived using this method. But when it came to nap time, she would say, okay, nap time is my go time. Like I need to do what I need to do. So she would quite literally do this. She would set it and forget it, like make dinner, go ahead, do her workout. And then if there were moments where she had to go and tend to her child, then she would do it. Like it's flexible. It doesn't mean that it'll work every time, but more times than not, it worked out great. And it just so happened to work in her schedule. So if you have a little one and they have nap time and you want to do a lot of things all at once while you have that golden whatever time you got, every kid's different, but let's say 10 minutes to an hour, take full advantage. And like I said before, gym at work. If you're already there and it's in your face, utilize it, make use of it. There's no reason not to at that point, other than maybe being sweaty at work. So in that case, if it is a concern, just do it at the end of the day. That way, you're going to work, doing your workout, go home, shower, cook, do the whole thing. And if you want a habit stack there, you could set it and forget it, then go shower, and then shower, get yourself ready, and you come down, you have a nutritious meal, bing, bang, boom, you're all set, you're good to go. So that is my spiel on how to make all this more time friendly. If you found this helpful, or if you have that one friend or family member in your head that you're like, damn, they really need to hear this. They've been complaining that they have no time whatsoever. And I just heard a bunch of different ways that'll just cut right through that. Go ahead and send this their way. Say nothing. Just drop it and say, meh, have at it. Give it a listen. Brian says hi. And they will probably thank you for it. They might be a little pissed at first, but they will thank you in the long run. All right. And as a thank you for you doing that, be sure to grab your free high protein recipe book down in the description or show notes, wherever you're watching or listening. And if you want to take full advantage of the free resources I'm giving you and get a personalized roadmap and have me take a look at your nutrition, your fitness, all the things that really influence your metabolism, sign up for a free metabolic assessment. Okay. You and me will talk one-on-one, totally free. I'll get you going in the right direction. And we'll talk about exactly what you need to do to finally start seeing the success that you want. So you don't have to keep listening to a million podcasts. You can just do what you need to do and get the results that you want. All right. So like I said, that'll be in the show notes, in the description, wherever you're watching or listening. But that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time. But until then, go kick some ass. I'll see you later.